Welcome everybody to Downtown Sarasota Condo Association's regularly scheduled August 3 meeting. Good to see everybody. Looking around the room, I believe we have all of our board members, with the exception of Judy Moore and Ken Sheelan. So we should
Jamie Still.
And Jamie Still, but we still have a quorum with those of you in the room, and I believe I'm the only one on Zoom. So with that said, we circulated the minutes with your advance packet. And is there any discussion or corrections to those minutes, please? Hearing none, may we adopt those minutes by consensus? Everybody okay? All right.
Yes.
Okay. That said, moving on to Clark, your treasurer's report, please, sir.
Yes, sir. Our Seacoast checking account has $9,417.85. Another $1,000 more than what we had in July.
Maybe you ought to go away again.
Probably get a very nice cruise here. $9 grand.
Okay, any other comments on our finances, Clark? I know you and I are working on signatory stuff, and we can talk about that offline, I guess, if there's nothing at the moment. You're a signatory. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I said at the moment you and I are working on some signatory details, but we'll talk about that offline unless there's anything holding up the show here about that. It is at this point that I was hoping to be introducing our guest speaker, Vice Mayor Battie. I talked to his office about 45 minutes ago to reconfirm things, and believe he is on his way. In waiting for him, would it be appropriate that we try and bite off? Is there any part of the agenda that would make sense to cover while we're kind of waiting on him? For example, sit and lie. Is there any that's on our old business topic? Can we sneak something in there in the interesting time?
I would agree, and maybe just even at the comp plan, but we could talk about that maybe.
What's that, Kathy?
I was saying under old business, maybe we could just run through that with what we can for right now.
Okay. Okay, but let's make that sit and lie, and we would interrupt that when the vice mayor comes in.
Sure.
Okay, so I think folks would know that was on the agenda for Monday, but got pulled kind of at the last minute for reasons, at least publicly, I'm not aware of. And Peter, I think you're maybe closer to this than some of us. Any comments on that, or?
I'd be glad to defer to Catherine.
I know that there was a lot of discussion going on behind the scenes regarding that, and it was kind of 11th hour discussion. So I don't know if that was the cause of it, but there certainly were things that were questioned and questionable. So it'll be curious to see where that is, and I was hoping maybe that would be a question that we could ask today as to what happened and where we're at with that.
Okay.
I'd like to just add that it was 13 months ago that we began this process on sit-lie. On a June 7th, 2021 city commission meeting, it was brought up, and then it was directed to the staff in October to put some words around it, and also to hold a public hearing on it. all of those things happened.
Yeah.
Bob Fournier drafted an ordinance that we had a public hearing on. We made suggestions about, we commented, and went through the whole process, I think, again, in April or May, somewhere around there. And then it was brought up, it was put on the agenda with much prodding, I think, to take some action on this on Monday, August the 1st. And at the very last minute, Mayor Arroyo, for whatever reasons, made a motion to sought support for a motion to table this. And it's a strange assortment of $10. There were only 3 commissioners there, for one thing. And Commissioner Kern Koch seconded it, and Commissioner Albert said, yes, it's great. And they decided to table it. Marlon Brown said, well, we can't put this on the agenda. We're too packed up until December or January. 5 months, 6 months down the road again. I think I was going to probably probe a little deeper with Vice Mayor Kyle Battie, being polite, of course. And I don't understand fully what happened, and we have some recommendations from the public. I thought we had a great set of photographs that illustrated not only the problem from a lie sit point of view, but obviously illustrated some problems with our whole mental health system and its enforcement downtown. And so as you can tell, I'm a little wound up on what happened with the sit-lie ordinance, because I think the whole thing revolves around enforcement. And we finally had some enforceable language in there and some definitions that even Shell Silverstein, where the sidewalk ends, would approve of, because it not only tells you where the sidewalk ends, but in Silverstein's word, tells you where the street begins. So I just a little miffed.
I guess equally that I was really disappointed was I had a conversation at the farmer's market with a police officer who was looking forward to the Monday commission meeting and looking forward to guidance. And he was very frustrated. So I think it doesn't, I think it's warranted to maybe push back a little bit on that today and just question it politely and just what happened. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that was pulled, the reasoning behind it, and maybe just leave it at that?
Yeah, I would say in my attendance at city commission meetings over the last 2 or 3 years, I'm not immediately recalling anything happening exactly like this. This was strange. I don't know. Maybe I'm off. I know some things get pulled. There seems to be more cause, so as to speak. This was just, and I can say in the at City Hall there were a number of people in the room who came to speak about that. So a question for the Vice Mayor. Any other comments on that?
I would like to just say that after we hear from Vice Mayor Battie, I may want to discuss making a motion that we submit a letter of concern to the commissioners on the way this thing came about, and expect that it should get addressed maybe sooner than later. But I'll leave that for a new business discussion at the end of the agenda.
Okay, but let's not forget that, because I would.
Okay. Okay, still waiting on the Vice Mayor. Is there any other I know I'm jumping around here, and excuse me, Peter, for if this is non-traditional, but one thing with Jamie not in attendance that has come up is with our workshop on October 20th. We're relating to building regulations and fines and inspections and so forth. The one bit of new news I have, I may have circulated something on this, is the Longboat Key Federation of Condos I've made them aware to kind of hold the date kind of thing. They've expressed interest in, if we're interested in their member, them actively promoting the event for their members. To refresh everybody's memory, I think they have about 90 condo members in their federation. And I am thinking that their participation, the question is, what level of participation are we comfortable with, including, I'm going to use the word generically, co-sponsoring, maybe that's too strong, joint sponsoring. Is that something that is a slippery slope to go on? I also note that the director of planning for Longboat Key has expressed an interest in attending. So thoughts on this, everybody?
So to co-sponsor an event, is that what your question is?
Yeah, maybe co-sponsor. I don't know what the right word is, and I don't know what we want to kind of run lead, but a participating sponsor, or I don't know. Is there something that we feel comfortable with or uncomfortable with the level of involvement that they would have? They would not be choosing the panelist and so forth, but I'm just interested in the thoughts on this. I mean, down the road, we know from a financial standpoint that cost sharing on some of this stuff is, helpful. And could this be a win-win for our associate members and all? So, Roger?
I'm sorry, what is the event? The name of it?
The name of the event is Our Fines Coming to Your Condo, New Legislative Deadlines. And the flyer for that, pardon?
I'll just share that flyer here for a second.
So this is the event that has been under discussion in some, yeah. Is that answering your question, Roger? The Longboat folks thought at one time of hosting their own event, but when they became aware of ours, they are asking if they would be welcome to attend and maybe have a little bit more involvement than that. So I was looking for any thoughts from the group here.
Well, it seemed, David, it seems that we've done a whole amount of work. I don't know how usually a co-sponsor jumps in at the beginning and helps you with this and that and agrees to do several things. So I think we're beyond the road to sponsorship unless we want to. Do they do an event annually or quarterly or something that maybe we could be a partnering sponsor and they could be a partnering sponsor on our event here or something? I don't know, but it seems that co-sponsorship isn't quite.
Yeah, I'm looking for a word short of co-sponsoring.
Active participant?
Promoter, I think if they're, say that they are a co-promoter.
Yes.
The event, and in similar fashion is when they have an event that we would agree to co-promote there. I mean, they're not asking for their people to be able to participate at the member rate. It's only a $5 differential, so it's not a huge cost thing there. So they're not asking for that, then having them listed as a member or anything else, I don't think necessarily appropriate. So if they're comfortable with being, helping to co-promote.
Okay. All right. That works for me. And David Lepinski was going to talk to his board for their thoughts on this. So I think one of the things we all agree on, we're looking for an excellent participation in this event, and all the help we can get in promoting it is helpful. We then would have Chief engineer of the city and the director of planning and zoning for Longboat in the same room, which could be helpful for some reasons. Okay, Jamie and I will proceed with that kind of direction. I don't think we need any motion on this. Seems like there's a kind of an agreement. And I'm stalling. Hoping the Vice Mayor, any other thoughts on agenda items we can
I think you can just write down the agenda.
Yeah, I think we should.
okay.
You want
Okay.
to make issue of business with comp plan?
Yeah.
Just take it down the list.
Okay, I would suggest on the comp plan that we wait until the Vice Mayor has made his remarks and then come back to that one. Let's then skip to Kathy, any city updates you could go through in addition to what we've already talked about?
No, the only thing I would say is that I did listen in on the DID meeting. I don't know if anyone was listening in, but you know, they went through their budget. They are being asked for funds for the Main Street, the streetscape. And so that was discussed. You know, they're continuing to promote their downtown and the district with First Mark. So you know, they're pretty steady on what they're doing, the alley cleaning, you know, they talked about that. So, you know, those are things that would be definitely related to the downtown.
Right. And this was the official handoff meeting when John Moran hands off to the new woman whose name escapes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She seems very knowledgeable and up to speed on everything. So.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Okay. As far as
the updates, yeah, we're going to talk about the other things that we have here always kind of wrap themselves into it. So.
right. Okay. I can report on the budget workshops. Just a couple key items. Money for the Boulevard of the Arts and 10th Streetscape projects are in the 5-year CIP plan but with a caveat. Those projects are to be in the area of 10 million-ish. And the city has requested a federal grant of about 6.5 million. Word on that is said to be coming this month. But on top of that, in the CIP budget, they have included, I think it's $2.4 million of penny tax, which is kind of a matching amount. And it seems like the skids are greased if that grant is approved for those projects to move ahead. They're currently, I'm told, at like 30% drawings, and they're waiting to, if they get the grant, proceed to what is called 60% drawings for additional resident input. And at the point where I think I've got my facts straight here. Once they're 60%, they are kind of quote unquote deemed by certain parties as shovel ready, and can proceed. And here comes the Vice Mayor. Okay. Hello, Vice Mayor. Come in, please.
Don't be shy. There were, what?
My apologies. We have a place that you go. Right down
Yeah, if you'd come down front, sir.
Sure, right here. See, there's a camera set up here. Thank you.
It is. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us on a rainy afternoon. We appreciate you coming in. And if you would stay a little bit toward Peter there, this is got
Here, so they can see you on the camera.
The camera has kind of a fisheye lens,
yeah.
so you can be seen by, it looks like 15 or so people on Zoom in addition to who's with you there. So Vice Mayor, thank you for coming to us. We are appreciative. We have a tradition of inviting important speakers, whether they be commission members, members of staff, and others to speak at DSCA. You and I have gotten to know each other decently well, I think, and I've certainly enjoyed that experience. I think everybody knows you are a homegrown Sarasota person and care deeply about our community, and so do we. And so in the DSCA official neighborhood, there are decent portion of District 1, which is growing. And I know I inundate you from time to time with some spreadsheets to show you exactly what that growth is. So thank you for putting up with me with some numbers from time to time. What I might suggest, just to get on with it, is our tradition is to ask our speakers to make remarks for 5-7 minutes, just generally about the state of affairs at the city, and then very quickly jump into a Q&A period with you, sir. And I think I gave Christina some of the areas that we would likely be asking questions on. So if you'd just provide a little bit of a brief remarks, and then I'll jump it off myself with one question, and then we'll see where that takes us.
Excellent. Yeah, you were saying something about important people. I don't know what you were talking about. But my name is Kyle Battie, District 1 City Commissioner and Vice Mayor of Sarasota, as you all know. I hopefully know. But I grew up in this area. Wasn't born here, but came here to Sarasota when I was a wee lad. My father was born and raised in Sarasota. Brought me, my mother, and my sister from New Jersey City, and not Jersey Shore, but and brought us here when I was a kid. So I grew up in this area. Grew up in every neighborhood in District 1. So I grew up on Central Coconut, Bayou Oaks, right across the street from the dog track, Gillespie Park, Town. So I'm quite familiar with the area of District 1, and even Sarasota. Was initially going to play basketball, and got roped into modeling or whatever for the up in New York, doing that for 15 years or so or more. Made my way back to Sarasota. I've been back for about 10 years now. Worked in the hospitality industry, opening up State Street and different places in downtown Sarasota. So, like I said, I've always had an affinity for the neighborhood in which I grew up in. So to leave Sarasota and to come back to the place in which you grew up, means a great deal to me. And how I came, by the position in the station that I find myself in today is, I've, asked the possibility of running for commissioner of District 1 because, that I felt that there was a need for some change, what happened, and some fresh ideas and a new perspective. And a fresh voice was what I ran on, whatever. And so, as a number of you, Richard and Pamela Mones, David Lough, Patrick Gannon, and so on. I met with quite a few people in the Rosemary district at Overton when Overton was there. That's where I set up campaign headquarters. And as I said, to be doing that during a pandemic is rather tough. But the Overton was a perfect place in which to do that because it was open air and you could be respectful of people and their positions and so on. So we did that, and I was always asked why would I run? And it's, to me, it should always be to make a difference. I talk about my position on the commission. And the one thing that I always speak of is, and I think a lot of people have come to know me or whatever, that I'm pretty neutral in my perspective on things. So when I was asked about running, and I had to ask myself, why would I run? I said, you know what? Because I can never question, never talk about. I can never say, oh man, if I was there, this is what I would do, or I would do that, or whatever. Because when given the opportunity to do something about it, I chose not to. So I chose to do it. And that's why I ran. We worked to get here. So, and as I said, like my position, a lot of times I swing things on the commission, but I try and do so from, like I said, from an open-minded position. Get information, I vet it, I run it through various sources and filters and so on, be it our city manager, deputy city manager, a number of people that I speak to in the community about whatever topic it might be or whatever. And I form my position, but when I get into our city commission meetings, I'm never rooted and cemented in that position, because I want to listen to both sides and listen to what everyone has to say, so that I'm very clear, and then I'm operating from a place of clarity in terms of what we're actually talking about to get to where it is we need to be. So, I don't operate with an agenda. I'm sorry, David, but I don't operate with an agenda. I don't at all. I don't cater to the special interests of this person, or that person, this group, or that group. That's not my thing. I just operate for what it is I think is right. And so I'm sorry, David. I mean,
no, Vice Mayor, that's a great segue into. Let me just kick it off with a question. There was a very important and interesting discussion about the comp plan and inclusionary zoning at Monday's meeting. I learned a lot. It was a lot of information. Those changes to the comp plan, zoning text, inclusionary zoning are immensely important to our city and to our greater downtown residents. And two questions. One, your overall thoughts on how that conversation came out, and a timeline for additional consideration of those critical areas. What are your thoughts on how the discussion came down on Monday?
Thanks for that question, David. As we know, with anything that we do or we vote on, especially when it comes to the growth of the city, that it's going to always include the comprehensive plan. Okay. This is a sort of like a moving target, to be honest with you, because it's ever evolving as the city grows and as it evolves and as it changes and so on. We have to constantly be mindful of that, whatever. But yet at the same time, we should never want to lose sight of what makes Sarasota Sarasota, and keep it with its characteristics, its charm, and its overall character. Now, David was just talking about the whole, idea of inclusionary zoning. The reason why we find ourselves in this situation when we're actually talking about inclusionary zoning is because of the situation with affordable housing. This was a conversation that wasn't sort of necessarily brought up, before the pandemic or whatever. But to be honest with you, it's vital. The city is changing. It is evolving. People are moving here. And we talk about the people that are actually here right now. So when we're speaking about this, particularly when we're talking about affordable housing and as it pertains to inclusionary zoning, a lot of that has to do with this housing market, real estate, and how this whole thing came about. And that is, people have to sort of like honestly take responsibility and look at it for themselves and what happened, part of the role that they played as well.
Yep.
That is that we lowered the millage, like say a year or so ago. We did so on the auspices of helping homeowners with mortgages and the property taxes going to come due. Everyone's feeling the weight of the pandemic and so on. So we did that. But during the pandemic, people were moving here, and with crisis, a lot of times comes opportunity. So the people that were moving here were actually buying houses. So we were buying houses and they were paying 2 or 3 times more than what they were actually worth. So when those people sold those homes, even though we lowered the millage to actually take care of them, they needed places to go because they thought they were actually making some money. But when you sold your home for say $600,000, other people were selling their homes for $100,000 too. And guess what they did? They went into apartments or whatever, So that kind of created a situation. And when we're talking about inclusionary zoning, that's how this whole conversation with inclusionary zoning came about. But you're talking about like bringing a number of people that have kind of like been displaced and trying to place them and find places for them to live. And that's where the whole idea of inclusionary zoning.
I think I want to just add a follow-up question, I think, to what David is probably getting to is, I think I was at the commission meeting as well and listened to Commissioner Ahern Koch. She did a presentation, brought us some things that I think that were a little bit more concrete examples of where we're at on this. It got sent to state. It comes back. You have a window of opportunity of 6 months before it actually. So I guess the question is this going, do you have a sense of where do you stand where re-looking at this and revisiting it and maybe tweaking it? Where are you on that?
Is that, we need to sort of include that into the comprehensive plan. We do. I mean, that's where we need to do, whether we put a pause on it or whether we work with it simultaneously as was suggested by the city attorney, Mr. Bob Fournier. Whether we do it that way, but either or, it needs to be included in the comprehensive plan because we will be, I'm sure, talking about like administrative review and things of that nature. So all of these things are sort of intertwined. So I didn't mean to go off like kind of like in left field in terms of like how we got here, but it is important to understand like how we got here. So that's kind of like where I was kind of going with that. But Commissioner Ahern Koch did a great, she did a great presentation. I commend and applaud her for that. And so.
Okay, I think Vice Mayor, what Kathy and my view is, are we rushing this? I think it's a general feeling about many of on our board and members that there hasn't been completely, dare I say, accurate or full information on some of this. There hasn't been enough dialogue with the community, and the fact that, as Kathy said, once it comes back from the state, there's a full 6 months. We know in the middle there's an election. So I think your comments, sir, because it seems like the planning department may be trying to schedule some things in September and October. I think, let me just cut to the chase. We kind of feel that I kind of feel that that's rushing things.
Yeah, no, I totally hear what you're saying and understand that, and, I don't have a problem with, like sort of putting apart. We have to understand is that when we're talking about like Dave just kind of mentioned about like, public input and community involvement. I don't know how this can be done, but when we're talking about inclusionary zoning, think about the meeting on Monday. It was like hardly anybody in that audience who inclusionary zoning would actually, like affect or who it was for, and that's what we need. We need, like community involvement. We need community engagement. We need people who, I mean, these decisions that we make actually affect their lives. And we need to hear from them. And like Monday, when we're talking about inclusionary zoning and so on, we're just hearing from one side, of the table, or whatever you want to say. And I'm not saying that it's bad by any stretch of imagination, but the people whom it actually affects and the people who it's actually for, they weren't there, and they weren't active participants. They didn't come and voice, how this affects them. That's kind of like an issue. I don't have a problem, pausing it or sort of like working it in simultaneously or whatever. But we have to like get, like everyone to the table so that their voices can be heard. And it's not, it's no one's fault. It's just that, listen, just as I said, like I could never sit and complain and say this and if I didn't get involved.
Right.
So like if you're talking about, how affordable housing affects you or whatever, well, we need to hear that. If you are talking about how inclusionary zoning affects you, and if it affects your family, we need to hear that. We need to understand it, just like we did with the U.S. recycling situation. We actually heard from the community. They spoke before the commission. So how are we to make decisions on things that are actually going to affect you, and you be happy with it if you don't participate in it? That's what we need to engage in.
Yeah. Patrick, I think you're having served on the planning board. You and a couple other board members know more than me. Do you have any follow-ups for the vice mayor on that? I know you and I had some direct involvement with Marlon and Steve Cover and have some additional plans. So maybe you could share that with the vice mayor.
I think I appreciate what Vice Mayor is saying. It's right in line with, I think, what we were trying to do back in the first part of this year. And the reason the board took exception to that comp plan amendment back in May was the lack of public input and the fact that the downtown was excluded, as Mr. Fournier put it, made it a deficient process. And therefore sending that stuff to the state would have made that whole process deficient, which you want to avoid. So we agree that there's need for more of that. We've been trying to reach out to the Mr. Marlon Brown and to the Steve Colbert to have more like seminars, charrettes, and target those groups. I thought that Monday presentation, for a city commissioner to sit down there and bring in her handwritten notes, etc., was very powerful. And it brought out facts that we had not been told, such as just because there's a ceiling, 25 units an acre, in the future land use comp plan, does not mean that's the floor that the developers get by right. And that was a whole different perspective. And if we had been given that perspective back in January, the dialogues would have been much different. So I applaud you for helping to make sure that the staff does look at the inclusionary and figure out how it's balanced and target. Because obviously, as was pointed out, what happens on the North Trail versus down in the shopping centers versus downtown affects people differently. And every one of those communities has people who have knowledge, and that knowledge needs to be put on the table that says, yeah, but what if? And when this occurs, we have in our community, how is this going to affect? So that's why the community workshop process needs to be revised, because it should be more timely and more meaningful. Timely means you don't do a community workshop 1 week before you submit your comp plan amendment. I mean, how many edits get made in that 1 week? So that's where I think the dialogue is. Anything you can do to help move staff, support that.
To your point, talking about those that have knowledge, and that knowledge only comes from experience. So we need for you, whoever that might be, these things like affect understand, like, the decisions that we make, particularly when we're, talking about this issue, like, I have to look myself in the mirror and make sure that the decision that I made was the right one. Trust me, I do it all the time. And that because I have to live with it. So if I have to live with the decision that I make, guess what? You have to live with the decision that I make. You know what I mean? So we need that engagement.
Yep. And thank you. In the interest of Peter, please ask your question, please.
I just want to make sure that that what you do, you have to get it right.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a second. You're not going to have a second time at this. You're going to put it in the comp plan. It has to be right. It has to be measured. It has to be contemplated. It took us 13 months and a first reading to get the sit-lie ordinance as far as it did, and suddenly it was pulled off because somebody thought it wasn't done right. Apparently, I don't know really why it was pulled off, but using that as an example, we did public hearings. We had public input. We had letters. We had people meeting throughout the city about sit-lie in small groups and feeding it back to the commission and the staff. And apparently, after 13 or 14 months, we may not have gotten it right. I don't want that same thing to happen to this because we need to speed it up. Because we can amend the comp plan. It doesn't. We have this 6 months, but you can amend the comp plan in the future as well. It's going to take you a little more time.
And that's what we're.
And so I don't think you have to put a timeline. We have to have it done by September or October.
Right.
If we don't get it right, we need to spend the time to get it right.
That's
And a question in the back from Bob Perillo, please.
Yes, you mentioned US recycling, and I have the recording and I haven't listened to it. But what's your sense of how that project is going to go?
play out.
Yes.
Yeah. You're talking about a situation, and again, I got Commissioner Koch, like spearhead, that initiative, which is kind of, as I said, it's tough for us commissioners like to sort of be involved in the same thing because of sunshine law. So kind of that one, like run with it. But I think, to be honest with you, that Monday's presentation from the community, again, community involvement and participation was powerful. It was impactful. And the community comes out and speaks like that, way in which they did. I think it will open up dialogue. To be honest with you, to answer your question, I think we're headed in the right direction with that. So, but we'll be keeping you abreast, like how that's coming along. But I think there's some things that even in a short time that kind of like spawned some dialogue, positive. So yes, as I mentioned, eminent domain.
Okay, is any did that handle it, Bob, for you?
Yes.
Any Roger, Clark, any other comments? I may have one more, but please chime in if you've got something. The final thing I will add, Vice Mayor, is 3D modeling, and that is back to the comp plan and so forth. And I was so pleased to see that being included in the budget to help us visualize some of these changes that may be being proposed. So I think it would pay for its weight in gold to move ahead. Now, the question is, it looks like there's some money in the budget. The question is that enough? And is the commission and staff assigning that an appropriate priority? I would think that if there was ever a time to fast track something, that would be a potential project that could be of immense value to our community. Your thoughts on that?
thank you for that question, David. It's kind of an inside question. Me and this young man had this, had conversation about this like quite a bit, about modeling and so on. And we come to the conclusion that it is. I love sitting down and having a conversation, with David and call me young man, and getting his thoughts and ideas in terms of like where we need to go, in the future of Sarasota. And see, he mentioned something like where the budget was concerned, it should be one looked upon as desperation, but one that's looked upon as opportunity. And this is one of those opportunities that I think that we can undertake and push forward. I think that we do have money, in the budget for that, David. And I talked to City Manager Brown, and we will, be looking at that quite heavily and trying. We got to bring, Sarasota up to speed. We do. I mean, we sit here, we talk about Brayton, Kentucky all the time. Brayton in certain areas are like far, along than we are to some, and now is our time to sort of step forward and be bold and take things such as this, 3D modeling and get us to where we want to see like projects, what they actually look like, before they're actually done, right? Or before they're voted on. What's this gonna, when you look at it, you can actually see the impact. How does, it's tough to see that, like, and to read it. It's a whole nother thing to actually see it. And as saying goes, the picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So, it will, all of us through the city to sort of invest in something that is basically going to benefit.
Vice Mayor, thank you. I've wanted to keep to my part of the bargain that we were going to have you for about a half an hour, and I think we've done that. Unless there are any final short questions or comments, we thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate your support for downtown, the thoughtful way you consider matters, and we look to be a partner with you in making wise decisions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I mean, was that all the questions for anyone? Like,
is there any? I think to keep us on track, time wise, we may have. Is there anything else anybody has?
Nothing in the chat window, so there's no questions posted.
Seriously, thank you all very much. I'm always appreciative and humble. I'm even asked to speak or whatever. So anything that I can do is that it's about ideas. It's about us coming together, trying to find some middle ground to make this or that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next slide, David.
Okay. Thank you. All right, well, thanks all. Shall we get back to, where did we leave off? Did we get, I think I was talking about the CIP budget and the streetscape projects, which seem to be moving ahead. And then the other item on there is the 3D modeling, which we just mentioned, that there are some funds, if there are enough, I'm not sure, and where the modeling should take place is kind of to be continued. But I personally was pleased to see that. The one thing that is, I don't know if troubling is the right word, is Main Street. Roger and I actually spoke about this earlier today about what thoughts are for concepts and plans and visioning for Main Street, and that seems to move around pretty constantly. So any comments on that, Roger?
Yeah. I checked in, and essentially, there's 3 phases on Main Street. The first phase we probably all heard about the East End with the new construction there. That developer has volunteered to do the north side of the street at 301 to Links. And the city wants to first match the south side of that. So that's one project that they don't want to lose the money that the developer is willing to put in to make that into parallel parking and wide sidewalks and to make it a streetscape. The second piece is the downtown improvement district set aside $400,000 last year to work on redesigning Pineapple to Orange and to making that a parallel parking, wide sidewalks to make the improvements that it made on Lower Main previously in the past. There's an issue with the $400,000 at this point, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And then the third part is that the city is looking at making Main Street from 301 to 41 a complete street, to totally redesign that street, and is looking at the possibility of grant funding on that. That then is part of the entire package of redoing Main, which of course would be worthwhile kind of thing. Because Main Street at this point, with this first employees working downtown and retail being only high-end, no other kind, and stores big folks are at risk. I think we should some love and attention at this particular point. One of the problems is that it did set aside the $400,000 for its share of that, with the caveat that the city would replace the parking that we would lose from the merchants between Orange and Pineapple. Well, the city then put the $400,000 in the city. But parking, actually probably ample parking anyway. And so the downtown improvement district is requesting us $400,000 back. And it's planning on going to the next commission meeting asking for that. Wants to use it to do some other things. And so that's a process. Of course, that $400,000 is already in the grant match to do this 1 million or more redesign of the entire street, which you're hoping to have in the grant structure. Let's see. The only other, they also, the city is also looking at St. Armand's, and St. Armand's is taking priority over Main Street, and that project is underway, redoing St. Armand's streetscape. So we're going after that one. I can continue if you like.
No, I think that's just so those projects weren't conspicuous by their absence and discussion. They're key areas of the city that have got to be on the list and hopefully moved ahead here in a coherent kind of way. So thanks, Roger.
Well, let me just finish up about transportation briefly, since I'm here. Is that all right?
Yes.
Well, the trolley won a international award for mobility from the International Parking Mobility Institute. It's really been quite successful. The first 2 months had 41,000 on the trolley and 31,000 on the scooter bike, which now is close to 50,000 on both of them. And what I think is going to be fascinating is the creation of a jump lane on the Ringling Bridge for the trolley, which will share the bicycle route with the trolley. And when congestion is on with say in season, the trolley will simply bypass all the cars on the bridge and go to the other end of the bridge. Well, actually, that's an interesting question. People always ask that. I've seen this particular jump lane in action in the Oxford, in which they share it with the buses, and it works. And it's kind of like other things, you know, it looks scary to me.
Bikers are nimble enough to get out of the way.
Well, you gotta figure something out, I'm sure. Now, Ringling Boulevard itself is in final, you know, is a complete street and it's under construction now. We're going to be able to bike from downtown to the Legacy Trail in a protected bike lane. That's really going to be a really nifty kind of thing, I think, in that context. And the roundabout construction's on time. That will really be nice. It's going to make it a lot safer and easier to get to downtown and to move out to the island. And so, enough for transportation.
Okay, well, thank you. And Bob, I thought it was just me that was hearing like a wind noise on the sound. Is it a possibility that that ceiling fan is monkeying with our microphone? Is there a possibility of, no, we don't think so. Everybody was muted and I don't know where.
I hear it too.
I don't know, everybody I'm seeing is muted most of the time. So I'm at a loss of where we haven't experienced that kind of, it's like, how's that? Did that do something?
I think that makes the difference.
Wow. Oh my God.
It was, oh, okay. Okay, that's better. I couldn't for the life of me figure out what was going on. So that's better. Sorry, everybody. Okay, for transportation and then I guess that gets us down to Arts and Cultural Committee with Ken not here. I don't have any particular report to give on that. Patrick.
Just on behalf of Ken, he is pursuing conversations with the Florida Studio Theater for a potential conversation in front of the board later this fall. One of their programs.
Yeah. And as long as that, as far as future conversations, I have extended an invitation to Doug Jeffcoat, the Director of Public Works, to be our speaker in September. I've talked to a couple of you about that. He is out of the office now, but we're hopeful that he could speak. Doug is very actively involved in budget preparation, so beyond his public works title and the importance of that kind of unsung, so as to speak, city need. We're hopeful that he can be with us in September. Associate Events Committee, Kristen is not with us, I don't believe. We talked a little about the fall workshop and the potential semi-cooperation, whatever we want to call it, with Longboat on the candidate forum. Again, for historical perspective, DSCA 3-4 years ago, right, Peter, hosted a forum. This year we had some discussion. As we know, the primary is August 23rd, I believe, with as many as 3 candidates moving on. And we had some discussions about a DSCA again hosting an event. I have been in contact, and Peter and I were at the board meeting for Downtown Sarasota Alliance this morning, and there is the potential looking for concurrence or agreement amongst our board to co-host with DSA a candidates forum stroke debate, whatever we want to call it. We had previously targeted September 22nd, which is a Thursday late afternoon or evening. I should say as a side remark here, CityPAC, the organization fairly recently formed, there was some conversation about potentially a three-way cooperation, if that's the right word, between DSA, DSCA, and CityPAC. Along the way, CityPAC had, I say, kind of a mutual agreement they're going to proceed and do their own debate forum. And the question is, it's my recommendation that DSCA and DSA is now willing and able to partner with us, that we proceed with an event on that same date that we originally discussed. It would seem to me, given the issues, in the important matters before the commission, including the comp plan and lots of other stuff, that a full, robust dialogue with residents and the finalists, shall we say, would be helpful and part of the DSCA mission. Thoughts on that?
Have you settled on a date yet then? I mean, with.
Yeah, our date has not changed. We always have been talking about Thursday, the 22nd, which would be about 10 days before the October 2nd event, CityPAC selected, shall we say. Their date happens to be a Sunday afternoon. Ours is a Thursday. Under discussion, again, was the potential use of the Friendship Center to some extent because of costs and parking. And the DSA folks would be comfortable with that. They also proposed the potential of the Church of the Redeemer, or they brought up the Methodist Church, which that's a venue I'm not familiar with. But I think if we could look into the venues. But the first thing to bridge across is, do we want to do this? Is it worth the effort and part of our responsibility to co-host this event?
That's a question. So yes.
That's a question.
Yes.
Well, I would just simply say, to the extent that we've been able to get, focus on the key downtown issues, from what I've seen from the prior candidate forums, there just does seem to be a strong awareness, certainly, of public input process.
Yep.
But clearly there are more issues related to the downtown that I think it's helpful to be sure that the candidates, final candidates especially, clearly understand the nuances, that it's not, posing one thing, we're simply trying to look at what are the mitigation strategies for various projects. But I guess the key question, David, is who's signing up to actually organize this and put together the.
Let me step in. Let me see what help Jamie can be on this. And Jamie has experience with the venue. We have the relationship or partial relationship with the Friendship Center, so we can, reach out to them. But I'm willing to, in part, take this on. Roger, are you raising your hand of interest?
No, I'm just volunteering, Peter.
Now, speaking of that, Peter did a great job at moderating an event a few years ago, and I think would be a really great choice. if he were so inclined, and it would, I think that would be an added draw to the event, knowing of his, tenure and stature around town. So, Peter?
Let's get you and Jamie and whoever the DSA representative is together, and let's
Keep
make
it
some,
on.
let's make some decisions on how we're gonna do this. Okay.
Oh, okay. Do we need
I'll do
a,
it pretty quickly because, the primary is coming up, and all of a sudden, we're gonna have 3 candidates who are gonna be in great demand, and we wanna secure our date the next morning on the 24th.
Well, I think we would probably need to secure the location now as soon as
Right.
possible. And maybe checking with a couple of lead candidates just to, hey, is there anything that you are aware of that conflicts with that date? If there's some other major chamber event or something that, hey, we're already aware that we might have to do this, or there's some commission thing.
I just send an invitation to all 6 candidates with a
Right.
precursor that if you happen to win, would you be able to participate?
okay. Well, do we need a motion on this, or is there a consensus for me to, Jamie and me to kind of run with it to the next stage? Peter,
I don't think you need a motion unless you're gonna put some dollar amounts in this, which I would recommend against at this point.
Right. I think conceptually, we are talking about a quite modest budget that DSA has agreed to split with us. So I think from a budget standpoint, we're going to be on the very modest end of things. So we'll come back with more specifics on that. Okay. Next is Green Space Committee. Patrick?
Nothing new.
Okay. Homeless, Peter, did you mention?
Only a couple of things. I think with beaten up Lough and that's well enough, and it's really not a homeless issue. It's a
Correct.
but the Suncoast Partnership, if you would, and you're interested at all, go to their website, suncoastpartnership.org, and look at their point in time results from 2022. There are some very disconcerting numbers in there that are attributed very much so to the rent increases and the lack of affordable housing and its impact on homelessness. And this is the first time in 5 years that I've been involved in looking at these numbers and trying to predict something, that all the numbers on the homeless were pretty discouraging this time. But there's good reason they went up, and the percentages are going up, and we're going to start bleeding more rapidly if we don't work together a little bit more.
What's that website?
It's www.suncoastpartnership.org.
I'll share it to you right now. I'll send it to you right now.
And the numbers are interesting, and this is the first time when I'm not comfortable going out to groups and talking about homelessness and saying that the city of Sarasota, again, this year reduced the number of people in need, because that's not quite the fact. And the second thing is that
Excuse me, Peter, we then, if it's significant, include a 3-paragraph and a link to that article in our August newsletter.
all right, great idea, yeah.
So I'll send it to everyone right now.
Okay. The second thing I'd like to note is that the Department of Housing and Urban Development in the new funding sources that are being pushed through Congress and has already passed, there's $2.8 billion in fresh funding for homeless services and organizations across the country, and it will flow through the continuum of care agencies, which the Suncoast Partnership is one. So there's new federal money. We've been pretty successful under Chris Johnson's leadership at Suncoast to get a significant amount of that money, and there seems to be more expansion coming about. So we'll try to stay more abreast of what's happening with this new funding. That's it.
Okay, and Peter, did I mishear you that you were pondering a motion related to concern about the city line?
I can do that here. I mean, given the rapidity with the sit lie ordinance deferral occurred, I think it would be apropos for us to submit a letter. Now, I don't know what the process is. I would not like to have to wait a month to submit the letter, but in outlining some considerations that this has to happen sooner than later and for various reasons that it may.
Well, is one scenario, Peter, between you and me, we draft something and circulate it to the board for comments?
People are comfortable with that.
Would that work for everybody? Is that,
Well,
Yes, well, then I can make it.
okay, so go ahead.
I would like to move that the Board of Directors recommend and approve, or not recommend, but designate the David and Peter to draft a letter for their review that to be sent to each city commissioner and the charter officials outlining our position on moving forward with the Sidley ordinance.
Question clarification, when you said for their review, are you talking about for the board to review? Okay, so you will draft it, send it around to the board to review,
Right.
and then assuming there is no negative consensus, you move forward.
Right.
any further,
Yeah.
any further discussion? Kathy, any comments on that? No? Okay.
This would be before our next meeting.
Yeah, it would be
Okay,
this week.
perfect. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And David, lots of time now.
Right. Okay. No further discussion. All in favor? I'm having trouble counting from afar here. So Bob, Kathy, Clark, Patrick, and maybe not Roger. Okay. Okay. So whatever that count is, 2, 4, 5, 6 supporting the motion and 1 not. Okay. Where are we? Health and safety, Kathy, is there anything there that we haven't kind of covered?
No.
Nothing. I didn't hear.
Oh, no, nothing.
Oh, okay. Transportation, Roger has covered that, I believe. Zoning code, Patrick, help me. We all will have seen a Dan Lobeck email to which you and I were copied. There's 50 different names here. I don't know if there's anybody else. We had this in the board backup material. The reason I bring it up is the closing lines of this resolution from the Revo Condo Association says that the association urges the Downtown Sarasota Condominium Association and other individual condominium and neighborhood association and other groups to strongly oppose those proposals to the city comprehensive plan and work toward their defeat. That's over the top to me. Discussion. I think that the discussion with the vice mayor, Patrick, and me, and our dialogues with Marlon, we have a luncheon meeting next week with Steve Cover and David Smith and Marlon to further discuss processes and community involvement on any proposed changes. But I'm looking for thoughts on how to potentially respond or not respond to Mr. Lobeck's the Revo's board's request. So, thoughts?
I can't see how we could even support something like this.
Just no response.
Yes, I would actually I think that would be appropriate.
I didn't catch that. I'm sorry. That
Go ahead.
No response.
okay. Okay.
I will say this, I think we need to, as maybe perhaps a committee, decide whether we're questioned, because we're going to get an outreach from someone. And do we have a position on it? We're open to still gathering information.
Yeah, I think there are going to be further developments in the next couple of weeks, so there's not enough information to. The thing is to defeat or whatever it is. That's kind of strongly opposed. That kind of language doesn't work for me. So, Patrick.
Real quickly, I was just looking. The member rep from the Revo, Kurt Chance, was on the call a little bit earlier. I do not see him on their Zoom here. I was going to maybe offer him an opportunity to speak if there's anything further, simply because, and I asked to be sure this was included, simply because a member condo organization passed a resolution and named us in there as urging us to take some action. And so I think it's appropriate we discuss this. In terms of the actions, I think what David just said is we are taking actions in terms of meeting with city staff, trying to do it through diplomatic means. We had a meeting last week with Mark Brown and Steve Cover and David Smith, meeting in follow-up with David Smith and Steve Cover, and through that, and then I think through the dialogues we're having, like with commissioners, as we just had with Vice Mayor Battie, and also from the city commission meetings, that more dialogue needs to occur to really understand what the options are here.
So are you proposing a response?
I am not. I mean,
Okay.
I will allow that. I'm just giving you a little bit of background. What
Sure.
I understood.
David, I may be the lone wolf here, but I think when a member asks us to do something, we at least ought to, out of courtesy, respond that we are not ready to support this position and that we're gathering information, tell them where we are. And do they have any suggestions of alternatives to just a flat no, don't support the comp amendment that they're proposing? I think you got to give them I think they're a member and they deserve a response of some sort.
David, you're back to mute. Part of David, what we could say is the steps, as I just pointed out, steps we've taken, and just simply highlight those steps we've taken to meet, and that we are pursuing to have more dialogue and explanations, understanding what the reality is behind these things. And from that, we should develop a plan.
I think Peter and you make good points. So let me take a first stab at something and then get comments from certainly you, Patrick, and Peter, and see what we can come up with. It's a diplomatic, appropriate kind of professional response. So good points. Moving on to Bay Park Conservancy. Bob, any updates, sir?
Not really. It's moving along according to plan. I encourage people to go to the Bay, Sarasota.org, to their website. You can see there's weekly videos of the update on the progress of the Bay. It's about it. Nice, and encourage everyone to take a walk over there someday because it's really showing.
Can you jump on the scooter?
Not me.
Have they named the birds yet?
I think there are five sets of names, which
Right.
frankly aren't very, I don't know. I think we could have done better, but they're looking for votes quit naming the roads.
Yep.
Sarasota.
Oh, okay, thanks, Bob. Ted, CCNA, are you, yeah, Ted, you're there. What do you have for us?
Nothing really. The CCNA isn't meeting in July or August, so I have no report.
Okay. As far as the Rosemary district goes, thankfully, Kimley Horn has come forward with another iteration, or actually 2 iterations of the Rosemary Park concept. I have a meeting tomorrow with some Rosemary District Association, our ad hoc park committee, for lack of a better word. Jerry Fogel publicly stated during the budget discussions that once the this new rendition becomes available, it's going to be in they are going to put it in 3D format also, to get any final neighborhood community input, and then get it to Marlin and see how Marlin wishes to proceed. I anecdotally, I mentioned something that just kind of shocked me. I became Loughs on Lemon, our affordable housing thing. They have paid $300,000 in impact fees for multimodal and park impact fees, 175 grand in park impact fees for an affordable housing thing, $900,000 in fees associated with their project. So something isn't sounding right to me, and the fact that we have to arm wrestle. Currently, the Rosemary Park is not in the FY23 budget, so to be continued, but at least we've got the concept drawings moving ahead. And as far as streetscape things, I've already talked about those enough. So let's see, Kristen is not here. Do we have any associate members on the call today?
Let's go around the room. Introduce yourself. Yes, you come up here in front of the camera and
Okay.
introduce yourself, your company,
Hi.
and provide news.
All right, so I'm Samantha Spano. I'm with Brown and Brown. I'm on Mike Andrews' team. I'm not sure if any of you know him. But we specialize in condo associations insurance. And right now, the market's tough, as I'm sure a lot of you know, looking at the association fees. We're seeing, let's see, Citizens had in May over 800,000 policies that they were writing, and 3 years ago it was half that amount. So we've been dealing with Citizens the past few days. Actually, even if your roof is less than 20 years, they are giving you an issue. So you think they're the last resort, but realistically they aren't. They're really strict. They're tightening their guidelines as well. So I know I sound like a broken record, but we're strongly urging people to get those contracts going with roofs if you do have older roofs. Because a lot of carriers, even if you are under contract, they want to see the roof completed. So you may have good intentions, but at the end of the day, that is something the carriers are looking at. So like I said, we specialize in condos. So that's all we do day in and day out. If you have any questions, if you want a complimentary review, please reach out. We'd be happy to offer one, okay? Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Sir? Okay. Anywhere where they can see you. Yeah, that's good.
Hey,
Hi,
hi there,
everybody.
Terry. Hi there.
How are you?
Hey, good, thanks.
My name's Terry Phelps and I'm with Socotech Consulting. We're a full service engineering firm. So as everyone knows, the milestone inspection and the structural integrity reserve studies are required for 3 stories and higher. So we can help you with all of that. If you have any other issues, concrete, waterproofing, painting, restoration, we can help you with that as well. We've been family-owned business for 26 years out of Naples, Florida. I work in the Sarasota office, so I'm local, so I can help anyone. You can just reach out and give me a call. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Anika Mantius. I do business development and marketing for a construction defect law firm called Burke Simpson. We exclusively focus on construction defect in the state of Florida. We represent condominiums and communities with shoddy workmanship. So you can give me a call if you have any issues. We work on a contingency basis, and we're here to help you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up.
Yes. Oh.
Everyone, I'm Brandon. I'm with Serpro here in Sarasota, Serpro North Sarasota. And I just want to introduce one real quick. So this is Paul. He actually just started with us this week, so I kind of brought him along to kind of show him kind of how DSCA operates and stuff like that. So he's in sales. He has a history in sales and stuff. So he just joined our team, which we're super excited about. Here with Serpro, you know, it's the middle of hurricane season. And I actually went back to Hurricane Irma to see how many calls our area got during that hurricane season. We got 1,597, so 1,597 in one day. And that was just in Sarasota and Longboat Key. So that's just our territory. So the way it works is Serpro, we have hundreds of franchises, if not thousands, that can dispatch teams to our area. And we have a vendor agreement program. It's an agreement, it's not a contract. It's just saying, in the off season, we agree to use Serpro for restoration services. And in turn, you guys get first pick of crews when they come into town during a natural disaster or storm event. So Serpro will actually station teams along the coast, waiting for that hurricane to hit. Once the calls start coming in, first crews go out, and if anyone that has a vendor agreement in place calls, they get whitelisted to the front, and all the crews get dispatched to them first, and then kind of put you on a new list. So definitely reach out to me. I'm North Sarasota. There are a few other, but I have the North Sarasota location. So we are the only franchise that offers that service to you guys as part of the vendor program. So if you guys are interested, reach out to me. It's a completely free service. You need more info. Awesome.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. That's it for the associate members, right? Thank you.
Yeah, and then we have Donna here on Zoom. Hi, Donna.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So as you just heard from the law firms, the insurance, the engineer, all of these things are happening with the roofing and the building structures. So, and it is important to start working on those now. And Cadence Bank offers fantastic loan opportunities and products to help you get what you need to get started in order to be in time, get it all done before the insurance company says, sorry, can't do that. So please give us a call. We can help you with that as well as any other type of deposit products that you need. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Great. And am I seeing anybody else? Any of our other associate members? Nope. Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. Are there any general comments by any of our member representatives on Zoom or in the room? Okay, hearing none. I think our next board meeting will be same time, September 7th. We'll continue to do this Zoom hybrid thing. And as I mentioned, I'm hoping Doug Jeffcoat will be our guest speaker. So unless there's any other business, may we call the meeting adjourned, please? And I wish I was there to have a glass of wine with you, Bob.
Oh, we will, David.
Take care.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're adjourned.